Hey everybody, Rachel here from Rachthestamper.com, and today I'm going to show you how to make this card. It actually is a 2-for-1, but I already used the outside part, so I don't have the other sample of this card, but I'll show it to you when we're done. This is probably one of my really most favorite stamp sets ever. If you remember a while back, someone, I don't remember her name, made these into coconuts, and we made this really cool coconut card. You can do this for virtually any type of fruit, citrus fruit. Excuse me, you could do grapefruit, lemons, limes, oranges, blood oranges, make up your own fruit. I mean, there's so many different things. We also made a really cool crush card. So here in Maryland, I said, we did talk about this before. I'm not sure if everybody has it, but a crush is like crushed fruit with usually vodka and triple sec, I guess. And it's something that most people enjoy. Well, they enjoy them all year round here in Maryland, but prevalently in the summer. We made a crush card, been lots of fun with this. But what we're going to do today is we're going to make this really fun citrus card. Now I have plenty of color samples to show you for other things that we can do. So some of these, I think maybe I might make like a combo card for the second one. So you can see there's different, you could use it for oranges. And I know some of the sizes were off, like maybe this wouldn't necessarily be the same size, but you can do lemons. My son actually had me make him a bunch of lemons, and he kind of hung them in his room as more summer decorations, but lots of different stuff that you can do. And I want to show you a couple other techniques that you can do as well. So this, what we did is, you can see I have one little whoops here because there's a little round circle from when I was adding color with my sponge daubers, but it's very easy to do this card, and you can really make it as complex as you want. Okay, what we did is we layered it onto black. This is heat embossed with white. It's on a white card base. So we're going to kind of make one layer, and then you can make it into 2 cards. So you do need this bundle, and this bundle is retiring. You can get, I actually just got another of the embossing folder, because the embossing folder embosses and then it does die cut everything out for you. So it comes with these dies. So I'll actually have 2 of these now. But the stamp set, you can stamp this stuff and then you can do it. But today we're going to be just using the embossed image, the embossing folder, and the dies. Okay, so without further delay, let me show you what we're going to do. So we have just a plain white piece of cardstock here. Now my embossing folder, you can see, did get damaged during our last class, but these still work, believe it or not. I've made several cards after this and it does still work perfectly fine. So when you emboss something with 3D, it kind of deeply etches the images in. So listen, you can feel it's like almost 3D. It sticks off the page, which is really cool. But if you want an even deeper emboss, what you can do is you can take this is, I don't know if you guys remember this. Let's see if I can grab one. This is shimmer paint, and then I mix it with alcohol, rubbing alcohol, in a stamp spritzer. There's many different ones of the colors of these. We don't carry them any longer. They're really cool. But with the Stampin' spritzers, you can fill them with water. You can fill them with rubbing alcohol. But if you spray your paper even before you run it through, it actually will give you an even deeper etch. Okay? So when you're running these through, if you still have a big shot, you have to use the plain platform and the A adapter, which is the blue plate. I always call that the blue plate special. But you want to run this in between these 2 things here. So I'm going to spray this and run it through. If you have a different die cut machine, I'm not really sure which one you'll have to use. You'll have to check to see what goes through. You will find a little bit of resistance when you put this through, but if it feels like you're really forcing it, then you want to stop. So you might have to check into that. But I'm going to basically just spray this off camera spray the whole piece with the alcohol and mist. And it does kind of make your paper curl, you can see. Okay, so what you want to do, so we're going to have the etching there. We're going to put this here, just kind of sticking it somewhere in the middle, putting this down, putting my blue plate on, and then you want to run the part that is closed in first. So this is the open end, so this part goes in first. And you'll see it's super deep. Now the cool part about if you do it with the spray, you also will get a shimmer to it. So I'm going to show you a little bit of what we're going to do, And we'll make a couple of these, but we're going to cut them out. So as you can see, I have a whole bag full of these. These are just leftovers, so we'll probably piece some of these in as well. But basically, I'm just going to use this because it's already a little bit dirty. So basically, what I started with, if you're doing a lime, I kind of went with the light Parakeet Party blend. And I kind of just did the center, so I'll show you for this one. And then you can kind of do in between the segments. So you don't have to do that, but it kind of makes it have a little bit extra. Another thing you can do is you can take blending brushes. Most of these weren't clean, so they'll still have some ink on them. And you'll just rub. So the colors that I used for the lime were Granny Apple Green and Lemon Lime Twist. You can also sub in Parakeet Party if you want to. And then you need a dark color for the edge, which is where Garden Green. So any of these three. And I'm going to just show you just a couple. This is just with whatever residual ink I have. This one doesn't have quite as much. That probably was the Parakeet. Okay, now one other thing you can do, and I'm going to actually open one of these up to show you. So you're just going to pick up ink with your blending brush, kind of brush it over the top to get it where you want. You can do, I did Peach Pie, which is a new ink color, Pumpkin Pie and Calypso Coral. That makes a really nice orange combo. You can use Pineapple Punch. This one's old. My son brought this down for me. Pineapple Punch, but you could also use Lemon Lolly. And Daffodil Delight would make a really good lemon color. You could even add in a little bit of crushed curry if you wanted to. Just do a couple of these so you can. So this one is the close. So that one we're going to leave a little bit lighter, and you'll see why in a minute. So a couple ways you can do this, depending on if you're hurrying or if you have, I guess, plenty of time. You put the Parakeet Party back. Oh, Parakeet Party is going to be retiring, so hopefully you have your hands on that if you wanted it. I'm going to bring out the Lemon Lime Twist. The nice part about these is they do just have different variations of color for the greens. I guess depth of color, hue, tone. Same with the Granny. I'm going to skip this for now. And I'm going to show you one other thing. If you wanted to, so say you're finished with this, the cool part what you can do is you can grab your Garden Green and you want to pull this so it's not going to open. So whatever this is, closing it in, you want to pull it away from you. But I'm going to just put this straight down and I'm just going to drag it across. And it kind of gives a really cool way to make it darker on the edge. So you can do that. So I don't want to do this one since we didn't do too much with that yet. And then for this one here, I'm actually going to use my sponge dauber. And I kind of just hit one side more than the other. Since we had that line, we might just have to get this just a little deeper. But the other thing that's neat about this is, so when you're finished, I'm going to close this because I'm going to die cut these. We're still going to need that. We're going to run this through. It will cut all three of these out at the same time. Now you can also cut this at the same time you're embossing it, but I wanted to color them first, so that's why I did it separately. So if you wanted to do all of these things at once, you would put this inside. What did I do with my folder? Well, you put this inside the folder and it will emboss them and cut them at the same time. We're going to switch now for here. Oh, here we go. So it'll be just like that, and we'll do everything all at once. Okay, but we're going to move to just the cutting portion. So I'm just going to pop these on here, and we still have a couple more things to do before we get to the main cutting, so bear with me. I just want to show you exactly how to do this if you want to. So we're going to run this through our die cut machine, and it will cut out those 4 things. And what I did is, we have some glue on there. I kept these because you can hand trim these out. So here's one way. Then the other thing that I found fun, and I'm just going to move all these out of the way because we really don't need much of this any longer. So the other thing I did is I opened my darkest ink pad. This will be for your edging. And I just rolled my die cut in it. And then I picked up a little bit with my dauber, kind of hit the edge. You can do this with your round one because it really, and you can kind of even lean it a little bit if you want a little bit more color, like that. But I find that it really does the most when you're doing these line pieces. And again, this could be a lemon, it could be a lime. The only thing it really couldn't be would be an orange. I guess unless you had some kind of a specific orange, but that's the good part of being crafty because you can use your imagination. So there are those. So I'm going to pop this away. I just want to move a couple of these things out of the way. We have some lime. So I was thinking for this one, I might even do kind of like a mixed citrus card. I thought that'd be kind of cool. So I'm going to grab some of these pieces. I have plenty of those. And move this here. And I'm just going to save these because I'll trim these and color them another time. Okay, so now here's where you can do it two ways. You can either, and I'm going to grab all my pieces here. So this is a card front. So what we're going to do is we're going to layer these pieces kind of how we want them onto a card front. So depending on what you want to do, if you're going to do mixed, we'll just do mixed fruit. Move this up a little bit. I'm kind of trying to vary how I have the pieces. You have these little thin pieces. You can line them right on the edge of something if you want to. Let's put a lime over here. Move this over a little bit. We'll have our orange wedge. Let's see. I'm going to swap these. Because even if they're hanging off, it doesn't really matter. You just want some variance. Okay, so now you can do this one of two ways. I even went so far as to cut a few of the smaller pieces into little wedges. You can kind of just piece them into place where you want. So if you have a little piece like this, just grab your snips. And again, this could be for anything. The only thing I did is I cut in the segment, but then I went back because you know this would be a little softer. And I kind of just rounded the edge just a little bit. We'll go like that. But you could do this with any of the pieces if you have a little orange piece. I feel like we need to swap a couple of these because it's a little too orange heavy on one side. I think I have any. Oh, here's one. Let's see, I don't think I have any wedges of lemon. All right, so we're going to leave it there. We can always put a couple of these in if we want. So here's the thing. You have this, it's great. And you're like, okay, I think that's where I want. Now you can go one of two ways. You can just pick these up and start gluing, which is a perfectly great way to do it. But if you aren't sure if maybe that is or isn't how you want it, another way you can do it is by using press and seal. So maybe you guys have seen this before. It's something that you use mostly in the kitchen. But what you can do is you're going to pick up just a little piece like this. It doesn't need to be big. And you don't really want it to be super sticky because you don't want it to pick your pieces up that you can't get them off. So you're going to just take this tacky side down like so. And you can always adjust these. So the biggest thing I do is once I kind of get it where I want, I just press just lightly because you don't want to press so hard that you can't really pick them up. Press, and then you can lift these, and then you'll kind of have your whole thing. So you can put glue on the entire back of it before you glue it down. Or also, you don't really have to do this. If you want, you can just put glue on them. But most important thing, no matter what you do, I'm going to move this up just a little bit. You don't want to put gobs and gobs of glue because that is the biggest problem you'll have, because then everything is going to squish out when you do your second die cutting. So you don't want to over glue this. Could you use tape? Sure, but because these have so many divots in them, you kind of need to give them something. So we're going to go with liquid glue. So I'm going to just go over and I'm just kind of, I'm putting it on everything because we are going to adjust it. It might not be completely where we thought it was on that first spot, but you don't need excessive amounts of glue. I know sometimes people are worried things are going to fall off. They won't. So we have some glue on there. You can see it's not a ton. And then we're going to just take this piece. And again, you don't have to do it this way. You could just pick them up and stick them. That works as well. And we're going to just press this kind of like that. Now we are gluing them down. Okay, so we're pressing them to the cardstock. Now this is the point where you do need to be a little more careful because you don't want to move them as you're pulling them up. But the cool part is once you use this press and seal once, this one I might have to readjust. It's actually easier to use it a second time because it takes a little bit of the stick off. This we're going to scooch up like that. Takes away just a little bit of the stick. Now if you notice that you have a piece that is really off of where you put it, or a piece that is definitely not glued on, absolutely adjust it, put a little bit more glue, but you don't really need a ton of glue is really the point I'm getting at. Okay, so you have your piece. Oops, there's a piece of my hair. We don't want that in there. Now, if you decide that there's other pieces that you want to add in here, now's when you can do it. So if you have like another lime wedge or a little piece of orange, or you want something stuck somewhere else, this is the time when you can do it. Okay, but otherwise, this is going to be pretty much your card. Now, I feel like when you're doing this with the green, it feels like it's a little fuller, probably because the way I put my pieces, it was easier to slide them in because I was more worried about not repeating the same pattern versus the same color. So if you want to slide something else in here, you could if you felt like you wanted to. You don't really have to. It's not necessary. And the other thing you can do to add a little bit to this if you want is to take your shimmer pen, and I wouldn't necessarily do this until you're done. You can go over them so it gives them a little bit of a shiny part. But now what we're going to do is we're going to just flip this and we're going to trim off the excess. Probably some of these pieces, maybe you could use a little bit again, but most likely once you're getting to the trimming portion, that's kind of it. Okay, so there, that looks a little bit more cohesive. So I'm going to dump this now. What we're going to do is we're going to take our deckled rectangles, okay? So I took, I believe it is the 4th smallest, let's see. Yep, the 4th smallest. And I just kind of made sure this was square where I was looking at it. And I put it like this. And this is where, if you have a lot of color in the same spot, it's not necessarily going to be there because we're actually making 2 cards. So you want to make sure that this is lined up and just do your best to make sure this is square for the most part. One thing to be careful, because you are running this through the die cut, try if you can not to stick the paper too hard down because it will peel up your color. But luckily I do have a nice workaround if you do that, where you can add color back in with kind of like your blending brush, but I try not to stick one too much if I can help it. I knew this one has a big one, but so now we're going to run this through our die cut machine. So just like so. And remember, when you're doing anything that has hard straight lines, you kind of want to give it a little bit of an angle. And we're going to run this through. Sorry, we were using this and this got a little over glued, which is why I said you want to be careful, because with your glue, it can get into your plates and then it's kind of hard. So this side on my plate has glue. I actually did try to wash it off, so I might have to switch to this side. But check before you're finished to make sure all of your cutting went through. If not, what I would do is take this one more time, flip your plate to the other side and run it upside down. It'll just ensure that the cutting gets more pressure from the top. So I'm going to do this. I'm just going to add this once more. And the reason it does that is because the roller that's inside of your die cut machine, this is really also good if you have very detailed dies. It puts pressure directly onto the cutting portion of the die. So you can see this will pop out super easily. Actually, the only thing holding it in place now is the tape. So that's a really good tip. If you ever have a delicate die and you're struggling with getting the little pieces to cut, flip it over. You might have to tape it, like you could tape if it's a full-size die, just tape around to the front of the card, but it really helps to make the cutting a little bit easier and more smooth for the first time. So we're going to take this off. This is that, I feel like it's like extra delicate tape. My friend, crafty friend Donna sent this to me. So here's the part where we're getting a little bit of the stickies because we are in something that was recently wet and we put pressure on it twice. So I'm trying to peel the correct direction because a little bit of this came off, but I'll show you how to fix it. But I've used purple tape, yellow tape, Post-it tape, and I haven't found one that doesn't ever take just a little bit of the color off. So I guess that's kind of the way it goes. This little piece came off here, so I'm actually going to take a teeny bit of glue and just glue it right onto the edge there. I'm going to kind of just eyeball it to see where it would go. It's like right there-ish. Again, once it's off, it won't matter, but so there's that. If you notice any spots, like right here has a little spot where a little bit of the white came up, you could do one of two things. You can either dip in your blending brush, you could hit it with your marker. I'm going to just lightly, because it's such a light spot, just fill it in with my marker. Even though like little white spot really won't show. I'm just going back and forth with my brush. Oh, see, there's a little more peel up than I realized. I think everything else is pretty good. So you could do it with your blending brush, with your ink. Go over it afterwards. All right, so now we have our two pieces. Now I noticed this piece, once I cut it, it is a little bit off. We have a little bit more, oh, and I must have used brown on that, on this side, but honestly, it's not gonna matter once we're started. We also have all these extra pieces that you could use for the inside as well. So let me move these over and I'll show you what we're gonna do. So we're gonna use one piece on a black base that will go onto a white, or black layer that will go into a white base. So that will be here to here. And this is going to have white ink. And then this one's going to have black ink. So what we try to do is, before we get into this part, we're going to heat up our heat tool. That way it will cut to less warping. And that would be only reason that you would want to, instead of maybe embossing directly onto your white layer here, if you want to put a layer behind, just so you don't get that warped end. But I'm going to plug this in. And I'm going to turn it on. So this is my heat tool, and I'm just going to set it on the side so it gets nice and hot. Okay, in the meantime, what we're going to do is we're going to prep our bases. So we're going to just do one at a time. I'm going to move these up. I want to make sure I use my embossing buddy to cut down on static. It's been really dry here this spring, so I am going to kind of take my piece to eyeball where I want to stamp my sentiment, and I think I'm going to go right here. So I am going to be using VersaFine ink because that's the ink I like best for black, also specifically for black heat embossing. And I fibbed. I'm going to do the Enjoy the Sweeter Things in Life. That was the only stamp we used from that stamp set. Okay, I have my black embossing powder and my coffee filter to catch. So here's what I'm going to do. Just going to set this on the side. I'm going to open this. I'm going to stamp it right here. Okay, setting that on the side, bringing this over, sprinkling. So you can see there's a black smudge here. First off, give it a really good flick from the back. And if that doesn't work, just take a paintbrush you may have handy, or it doesn't need to be nice, doesn't need to be good, just needs to be dry and clean, and just brush the excess off, just like that. So I'm gonna put this back in to put the lid on before I heat. And then this should melt really quickly because it's hot. You do want to keep it moving. Kind of cuts down a little bit on warping. It will turn shiny when it's completely heated. And I'm going to heat from the back just to kind of even out the cardstock to flatten it a little bit. There we go. Okay, so there's one. You can see it's shiny now. It's all set. I'm going to set this on the side, and then we're going to do this one. So same thing, we're kind of eyeballing where we want it. Again, we can do it at the bottom or we can do it at the top. I think I'm going to do this one at the bottom just because it'll be easier with the camera and me not boinking into things. Since this was black, I'm going to go ahead and wipe it off. Okay, and then I'm going to grab my Versamark. I'm not sure if it is my Versamark or my white embossing powder that needs to be replaced, but one of the two of them. Oh, forgot one most important step. Definitely hit this with your embossing buddy. One of them isn't inking as well, so I'm gonna have to see. It could be my white and I need a new embossing powder. Okay, so I'm gonna close this. And I'm going to stamp this down. Move this up. Same thing. Now I'm going to grab my white. Sprinkle it. I actually have a couple different white embossing powders. I really like Brutus Monroe, but that one wasn't embossing well at all. So I'm thinking maybe that one's at the end of its life. Stampin' Up! Actually does seem like they have made the switch that they're going to be using WOW embossing powder, so I don't know if it was a supplier issue or I don't really know what, but maybe that one will emboss a little bit better. That will be in the new catalog. So I'm just going to heat this to set. Okay, I'm going to give this just a moment, and you may notice there's a little bit of a chalky dust. I'm going to give this a moment, and then I'm going to wipe it off. Just letting it cool down because, yeah, I'm wondering if it is my embossing powder. I might need to get new white because it almost goes to a little bit see-through in some of these areas. So since this is cool, I'm going to just take my microfiber cloth and just take, you can also do this with a Swiffer cloth if you have one, but you're just wiping away the embossing powder. So then I'm going to put some liquid glue on this. Okay. Position this in the center. Okay, and then this, I'm actually going to pop up on dimensionals. You could have done that with the other one if you wanted to with the frame, but I think I forgot to tell you that. Okay. Now with this, if you feel like you might get it and it's not exactly square where you want it to be, a good tip is once you've removed the backings from all of those, put just a teeny little dot of liquid glue. And what it does is it gives you a little bit of wiggle room to move it if you need to, if you don't feel like it's straight. So kind of this way. I eyeballed it. But if you're like, I'm not really sure, it does give you a moment to wiggle. That looks good. Move all these guys out of the way. We have one other thing. I just want to make sure I can find what I did with them because I feel like I put them away. Yeah, here they are. So these classic matte dots, which are my favorites, they actually are going to be retiring. So if you can get your hands on these, they're really quite versatile. The nice part is you can use the white ones and you can use your dark. This is again Parakeet Party. No, Dark Granny Apple. Maybe that was a thing. I had two different ones. I had Parakeet for one and Granny for the other. But you can use your blends and you can color them. You can see that? I'm going to color 3. So we'll use 3 white ones that we've colored green. And then you have those white on the top, but the green were for the other one. So let me just put this cap on my glue. Probably the one thing about the Barely glue, you do need to put your needle in. If you ever notice that it gets jammed, that's probably why. Okay, and let me hit this really quickly. This was a super fun card to make. It is a little bit of steps, don't get me wrong. Not gonna fib. Oh, forgot to glue this one on. But it really is a cool card. And the fact that you can do just the one, or you can do all of the different fruit, makes it really fun. So again, you could pop this up if you want to. I'm going to just, for the sake of time, since we did a lot of stuff in this video, put it straight like that. Pretty good. And if you're really a little bit worried about the fact that this card is a little wonky because we heat embossed directly onto this, you can run the whole contraption through with a piece of printer paper just to keep it safe. And I mean from getting like little bits of pre-embossed stuff onto your card. Sorry. Trying to put this in and I bent it. So you can run this through and it will flatten it out. But what we're going to do is we're going to grab our 3 pieces. So we have 3 white ones we're going to put up here, and we're going to put the 3 green ones here. And I'm going to use just my scissors here to pick these up and grab them. And once you give them a minute, they're dry. You don't have to worry about the ink. And that's the nice part about the blends. The ink won't come off. And we'll use 3 white ones up here. Oh, I lost one. Hold on. Here it is down here. Oh, maybe that one lost its... Oh, that explains it. It lost its glue dot. Okay, well, I'm not going to make you suffer through me adding that back on there. I'll add it on after with just a little mini glue dot. But, see if we can move this over here. No, it looks like the whole little bottom came off. All right, so what I'm going to end up doing is just coloring another one and adding it after the fact. But you get the drift of what it is I'm trying to show you. So we have this. This would be the multi-fruit. And then I did my other version that had just the limes. You could do just lemons. But again, lots of possibilities for this just because there's so many different things you could do. Again, you could do all grapefruits. Lots of different options for that, which I think makes it so much more fun. So if you haven't already, I would love for you to subscribe along with my channel here. Give me a like and a follow. Share this with a friend. Those are absolutely free ways to support me and my endeavors here. If you have anything that you like to buy, all the links are in the description below. This stamp set will be not available any longer after April 30th of 2024. So if this is something you want to get, I would definitely get it sooner than later because it is going to be gone. However, we will have lots of new stuff coming out in the catalog, but no citrus fruit, sadly. So that's something that we will not have. So if that's something that you want, I would definitely get it sooner than later. Thank you so very much for watching me today. If you have any questions or comments, you can certainly leave them here in the YouTube description of this video. Don't get a ton, so I am able to check those very thoroughly. If you like the classic matte dots, again, these are also retiring. And if you don't have something to store your embellishments in, Patty Bennett had a great organizational video. These are actually passport sleeves made by Avery that you can get on Amazon. They're great for storing all of your embellishments, and they kind of keep them all together. So I want to thank you so very much for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks for watching.